And you'll be racing the 250 class.
450 class.
The 450
Yes,
class.
sir.
Okay. So that's the premier division. That's what they'll be broadcasting all the time with, some of the top riders, Ryan Dungey, Villapoto, James Stewart, Heath Harrison. All those guys will be there. So y'all can watch them on TV if you want to. Now, can you talk to them a little bit about your fitness regimen, what y'all do?
Yeah, it's pretty much I don't really like to call it a job. It's what I love to do, and I have a great time doing it.
Number 1.
For the most part, we get up every day and eat a healthy breakfast, and then we'll go out and ride. At this part of the year, I'm riding Supercross, so I'll go out and do my motos or sprint laps or whatever it may be that I'm doing that day, and then in the afternoon, I'll do some cardio if it's a certain day, or weights if it's a certain day, but for the most part, just mainly doing a lot of cardio. That way we can last the whole motos.
And when you're doing your cardio or your moto sets, how long are you actually riding?
It differs between motocross and supercross. Like supercross is done by laps.
Right.
And like a main event in a supercross race is 20 laps. And then in outdoors you have 2 motos that are 30 minutes plus 2 laps. So it ends up being right at 35 minutes 2 times during motocross. And then, but when we're practicing, we try to do, like this whole past week I've been doing pretty much what we do at the race, which is 2 15 or, and then I'll take a break in between each one of those, and then I'll do an 8-lap heat race, and then I'll go do a 20-lap main, but obviously by myself practicing.
Yeah, so it's very sport specific and on what they're actually doing, which I wish a lot of our athletes would do this kind of stuff instead of having our offensive linemen running miles with things. It's really not what they do with their sport. So why are they practicing that? There's some issues too, though, with cutting body fat and those kind of things that I'm sure you guys, Brent, Heath, y'all understand that. If you get too heavy, it's going to slow you down a little bit. Well, how much do you weigh, Heath?
185, 180.
185, 180. And are you small, large in stature?
For the 450 class, I'm probably average weight. There's a couple guys that are probably 160 to 170. But as far as like the 250 class, which we call the lights class, the guys in it are anywhere from 120 to 150. And is the ideal weight.
That's an advantage on the bike.
Oh
itself.
yeah, for sure. Because it's all done by CC. So the more you weigh, the less horsepower and stuff is going to take the bike down. And so weight's a big thing. That's why I chose the 450 class, because I'm a bigger kid and it makes it more fair for me compared to other guys.
Yeah, I couldn't see you going down to about 120.
Yeah, no.
And there's you have to think about this too, guys, that if you're dropping that weight, what's it going to do with your strength? It has potentially, you're going to lose muscle and body fat, potentially. So do we want to lose a lot of muscle? But do we want to have a lot of? Brant, get up here for just a second. If you would. He's one of our football players. He was a running back for us and a linebacker. So what do you weigh?
212.
212. Y'all are about the same height. Brant weighs about 212. What's your body fat? Right?
Around 15, 16.
Around 15 or 16. So, and that's probably pretty close to ideal for our football players and for that position. But not so much for riding the motorcycles.
I probably wouldn't be too good
Have you ever ridden one?
No, not that big.
Well, again, and ask questions free if you want to about whatever, Don't ask these questions about riding or anything like that. I'm sure we'd be glad to answer whatever we can.
Yeah.
But, that's our difference. We have running back, pro motocross racer. Just about the same height. Almost look like exactly the same height. And then 180 versus 212. Now, when y'all work out, do y'all do max bench reps?
We don't really do hardly any bench pressing. We do it mainly like free weights and pretty much just like curls and stuff like that. But we try not to do like super heavy weights. That way we don't get pumped up. And then we try to do like lighter weights, more repetitions.
That was going to be my next one. contention with you guys. If you're teaching somebody to work out or the programs that they're on, you know, what do you want for your end result? Brent, what do y'all, how much do you, when you work out on the bench, what is your workout?
We'll probably do like 200 for, 10 reps, and then move it up and do 8 reps. Like, we'll increase it, but we'll drop the reps by 2.
So, yeah, and they'll be doing so.
Like sometimes I'll do the concept rower, and then mainly I road bike. I'll go on probably a 20-30 mile road bike ride, and then ends up taking 2.5 hours or so. But it just depends on what my trainer has me doing for the day, as far as whether it's like heart rate zones or just like a steady like intervals, or just depends on what's on the schedule for that day.
And you're in contact with him pretty regularly, I assume?
Yeah, I email and text him pretty much every day, and then talk to him every Wednesday morning.
Do you ever do any running?
Not really. I used to do some running before I started working with Rob, and not a lot of motocrossers do running just because it's hard on your knees. And so mainly all the riders stick to road biking or the rower, but road biking is probably the main equipment that they use for training.
What kind of bike do you ride?
I ride a Specialized Allies.
Can you bring it next time? Heath can train for it. Heat and humidity is a good thing to train in. And when they do the outdoor races, heat and humidity is a big deal.
Oh, huge deal.
So the indoor ones, depending on where you are, I guess it doesn't really matter a whole lot. It'd be impossible if you think about it. One of the big races is Freestones in Texas, and that's I'm assuming one of the hotter ones that y'all have. It's outdoors. It's 30 minutes plus 2 laps, so about 35 minutes. In when is it?
I believe it's in June.
In June in South Texas. What's the heat and humidity going to be like? It's going to be hot and humid. So if you don't have somewhere to get out of it after you've just basically maxed out for 35 minutes, there's no way to recover. You'd have to have you'd have to have somewhere to go. And, but from my understanding is you don't have much of a problem with the heat and humidity.
No, not really. I've been lucky enough that I live in South Alabama where the humidity is at ultimate high, but say like the Texas races, there's been riders that pass out from heat exhaustion or dehydration, whatever it may have been. But then also up in like Michigan, we have a race there, and then one in Maryland, I believe, that get pretty hot, almost as hot, if not hotter than Texas. And actually, unfortunately, in the Michigan one, a couple years ago, we had a rider had a heat stroke and didn't make it. So
yeah,
it gets pretty serious sometimes if you don't stay hydrated.
So that's something else we look at with what are our guidelines for our fluid consumption before, during, after these events with heat and humidity. Okay, how much are we going to drink? How do we know we're hydrated before the event? If Heath comes to you guys and asks you, I'm racing in Freestone, Texas. It's going to be 106 degrees with 80% humidity. What do I do?
Be clear.
If your urine is clear or clearish before your race, you're pretty well hydrated. All right, so what about how much does he need to drink before, or does he need to eat before? What kind of pre-participation meals and things?
At the motocross races, we have 2 30-minute plus 2 lap motos, but then the second one is only, say, an hour and a half after the first moto.
Right.
So they also might want to think about like, how would you get all that food or calories or whatever in time to get before that second moto started.
Race. Go.
Right.
So what do you do to tell us your race day ritual?
Well, I get up. I think practice starts around 8:30 or so. So I get up around 6:30, eat a breakfast, and then go do my 2 10-minute practices, which are time that qualifies you into the motos. I think there's 80 to 90 riders trying to qualify for a 40-man gate in the 450 class and then the 250 class, so a total of 160 riders or so. And then, so only 40 riders get to race in the actual motos, and then we'll get probably 2 hours before the first moto starts, and then we'll we get a sight lap obviously, and then do a warm up before the sight lap before we even go to the gate, and then do the sight lap, and then we'll come straight back to the gate, and then we'll start the moto and go 30+2, and then come back in, and by then you're exhausted.
You're done.
Yeah. So me preferably, I try to get as much water in as I can in the short period of time that I have, and then eat a piece of fruit, or maybe a couple pieces of fruit, apple, banana, whatever. I would normally take, like, say, a Gatorade, like you were saying, or a bottle of water to the line with me for the second moto, and then that way I have fluids in me the whole time.
So, you know, I didn't hear power bar or gel or anything like that. A lot of those things are marketed. I won't say they're flat out lying with these products, but they're marketed. They only tell you certain things when they market them, and they want to make them appealing for high-end athletes, because you know that's who everybody sees doing this stuff. When you get interviewed or whatever after the race, and you know we see guys, the sponsorships they have, Monster Energy or whatever, a lot of them will have a bottle that says Red Bull or whatever on it. That doesn't mean that there's Red Bull in the bottle, but that's one of their sponsors. You know, and I always pay attention. I've seen a lot of them walk up there with an empty can and hold the can, and then don't take a sip of anything, just act like they're drinking from the empty can. So what about the energy drinks? Do you use those, or?
Maybe if I'm just on a long drive one night, but not during or in between races. No,
It's not something that happens. It just doesn't happen. So again, take all that advertisement and things with a grain of salt, because when you go to these big races, that's who the sponsors are. All of them. Red Bull, Monster Energy. I think
Rockstar's the main one.
Rockstar's another one. Yeah. So all those things are, again.